Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over how to do a flip fluid simulation. I just got this add-on and the results speak for themselves. As you guys can see here, there's an example on the right hand side here. I did a copper fluid flow into this little object here and it just looked incredible. I did a few different shots at different frame rates to showcase what's possible here. Let me show you guys another example. As you guys can see, we have fluid inside of an object that is also falling. So we'll go over that eventually in a future tutorial. This came out fantastic. And the capabilities with this program, I mean, you really do get what you pay for. So let's go ahead and hop into a new document. I'll show you guys kind of where you're going to find flip fluids after you download it and everything, and kind of what you need to do next. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up Blender here. All right, so we are in Blender. We have a new document. I'm just going to save this as flip example. Sorry guys, hold on a second. Flip example. Okay, cool. And it's not going to want to save for me. It does that all the time. Flip example. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so flip example. If you guys go up into edit up here, preferences. So you're going to have a little preference panel right here. You're going to want to search for flip fluids if you've already installed it. And then it's going to be right here. If you have not already installed it, you're going to want to download the zip file from Blender Market or wherever you found it. Click on this little install button, locate the zip file, double click on that to install it, and it'll go ahead and add it for you. And then once it does, you'll see something like this. Don't be alarmed. There's a lot of information in here. I promise you it's really nothing crazy. They're just telling you some details about the actual add-on. If you guys want, I'm just going to scroll through here real quick. You can go ahead and enable the developer tools here, which we'll definitely be using in a later tutorial. Everything else, you can just keep the way it is, and when you're done, go ahead and X out of that. So we have our Flip Fluids add-on installed. How do we make our first simulation? Well, what did we do before when we wanted to make a fluid simulation? We would go over to our physics tab and we would add a fluid property to our cube or whatever object we wanted to. Well, in this case, you're now going to see something called flip fluids on the right here. I'm going to click on flip fluid. Now you're going to get this little drop down. It's going to give you different options here. I'm going to go over each option. None means well, exactly what you think it does, nothing. Domain is where the fluid simulation takes place. The fluid is the actual fluid geometry. So if you're going to drop a ball of liquid, it's going to fall down as just a solid sphere of water, and then it'll of course crash into the bottom. Obstacle is basically like a collision obstacle. So if you have a wall and the water hits the wall would be the obstacle. So it just means anything that's going to interact with the fluid. Inflow is when basically a downspout, so you're pouring water into the simulation. Outflow is the exact opposite. It's actually going to capture that water, take it out of the simulation. And then force field, that's a whole nother thing right there, but basically you can add different force fields within your simulation. So I don't think this works with force fields in Blender. It works with force fields that are already built into the add-on. So if you guys want to add a force field like just an internal force or an external pushing force, this is where you would add that. So I'm going to click on domain. So this is now going to turn into a wireframe, which is fantastic because it's actually going to help us a lot to visualize our simulation. So right now you're going to see a lot of options on the right. Don't be overwhelmed. I'm going to go over the most important ones. To be honest, the most important ones are right here at the top. It's the bake button and the resolution. Right now the resolution is set to 65. Now what's really cool about flip fluids is as you're baking, you can actually see in real time what is happening. So let me show you. Let's go ahead and add a mesh. Let's just add a UV sphere. I'm going to go to my side view. I'm just going to scale it down a bunch, and I'm going to leave it right there. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the flip fluid button here, and I'm going to assign this a fluid. So now that's also going to turn into a wireframe. So if we went ahead and we baked this right now, you wouldn't see anything, and that's because you actually need to enable the real-time updating. So if you press N, that little shortcut, this is going to pop out here. Click on your Flip Fluids tab, scroll all the way down, and there's going to be something that says auto load down here. So I'm going to click on that, and now as we bake, it's going to show us in real time what is happening. And the best part is, if for some reason Blender does crash, it will actually save this automatically for you. Now you are going to need to set up a cache folder when you first open up Flip Fluids. I've already done that, so make sure you guys do that. All right, now go ahead and click on Bake, and let's just watch what happens. Now, in real time, we can see this fluid simulation happening. Now keep in mind, guys, this is at 65 resolution, a very, very low resolution. But how cool is it that we can actually see this happening in real time? Now the best part about this, if we want to go ahead and stop this right now, we can stop this and then we can resume it. Let's say we're like, okay, we like this. I really like the way this is looking. We can actually go over here on the right-hand side and say resume baking from frame 31. So I'm going to click on that. And now, as you guys can see, it's going to continue to simulate that fluid simulation. So powerful. This is one of the best features, in my opinion, of Flip Fluids, and I cannot say enough nice things about this add-on as it is. But as you guys can see already, even at this low resolution, this simulation looks fantastic. Now let's just go ahead and stop this. Now if we went ahead and played this back all the way to frame 77, it looks really good. Now this is a really low resolution. There's not too much going on here, but I just want to show you guys a few extra features of the types of things that we can do with this Flip Fluid add-on. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go over to my rendered view. I'm going to switch over to cycles, GPU, and I'm just going to add in an environment texture so we can kind of see what's going on here. Doesn't really matter the one. This is fine. So if you guys wanted to change this material, you could click on the mesh. You could add a new material. You could make it blue, whatever. But let's say you wanted it to be a little bit more realistic and you didn't want to have to go through the whole shading process. Click on your domain. Go back to your domain settings over here where the physics tab is. And then go down to where it says Flip Fluid Materials, and you're going to see this little option called Surface. Go ahead and click on that, and I think I'm going to go for, I really like the copper one, so I'm going to click on copper. And as you can see, there's a default shader option available for this copper within Flip Fluids, and it actually doesn't look too bad. And if we go over to the shading tab, you'll notice when I click on this, we have the whole node group right here. It's a very complicated node group, so I'm not going to get into it. But if you guys really wanted to dissect these materials, you could. That's my point there. So again, guys, let's go back to our physics properties. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some other options. This one is a nice water. That looks pretty decent. And I think there's one with volumetrics. Yeah, this one has volumetrics built into it. It looks pretty nice. Wow. So just like that, guys, we have a fluid simulation very quickly, and not to mention, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it's much quicker than Blender's built-in simulator. It's just like 10 times quicker. So yeah, let's go ahead and try a couple of other things. I want to show you guys how to do an inflow as well. So I'm going to click on my domain. I'm going to click on reset, and this is going to clear all of the baking data. So I'm going to click on reset, and then I'm just going to go to my sphere. Well, I'm going to go back to solid view, click on my sphere. Now instead of fluid, I'm going to click on inflow, and I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then I'm going to bake. And let's go ahead and see what happens now. Now, instead of the sphere just falling, you can see that it's actually basically acting like a faucet where you would turn the water on and it would pour into the scene. And what's really nice about this is you can easily stop and start this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this right now. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to click on my sphere here, guys. And then you see where it says enabled right here? This basically means, is this thing putting out water or not? Right now, I'm on frame 20. I'm going to press I. I'm going to hover over this and press I. You're going to see it turns yellow. And then I'm going to head over to frame 22. And I'm going to uncheck it and then press I again. So I've now keyframed it to turn off at frame 22. Click on your domain. Click on bake. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to get here. As you can see, it's flowing. Now watch what happens when we get to frame 22. It should automatically shut off and stop putting out liquid from that sphere object. As you can see, at frame 22, it is completely shut off the water source. And at this point, you can basically act like you're filling something up with a faucet. You're turning the faucet on, and then you're turning it off. And of course, if we wanted to, we could put more liquid back into the scene later by keyframing that specific checkbox. So that's a really, really powerful way to do that. And as you guys can see, this does look really good. Now, the simulation that I showed you earlier with the copper, that was about 350 resolution. So it was a very high resolution. And as you guys can guess, the higher the resolution, typically the longer it takes to actually simulate your fluid. So let's go ahead and just play this back. Really cool. So let's go ahead and look in the rendered view. It looks awesome. I personally just love the copper, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I don't know, there's just something about it. I just think it's beautiful, especially on a darker background. As you guys can see, this is looking fantastic. And that is pretty much how you do a fluid simulation in Flip Fluids. So now that you know how to do the actual fluid simulation, let's go into obstacles next. So I'm going to click on this again. I'm going to click on reset. And now let's go ahead and add an obstacle in. So I'm going to add in a mesh cube. I'm going to scale it down, make it kind of flat here, move it down like this. And I think I'm going to rotate it like that. And I'm going to scale it that way as well. So now we can make this our obstacle. First, I'm just going to go ahead and apply the scale, although I don't think Flip Fluids really even takes a look at that. I'm going to click on Flip Fluid. I'm going to make this an obstacle, and that's all you have to do. Let's go ahead and bake this and see what happens. As you guys can see, just like that, we have added an obstacle onto our scene here. It looks fantastic. I'm very happy with these results. Now, guys, this is a low-level simulation. In other words, this isn't even close to what you can achieve with this program or with this add-on. This is at 65 resolution. Now, what's really awesome about this too is you can do your fluid simulations in a lower resolution just to test them out, make sure everything's working properly, and then when you're finally ready, you then raise it up to something like 300, 400, whatever your computer is capable of. Again, that one simulation I showed you where the copper was filling up that one shape, I want to say that bake took like 3 hours. It took a long time, but the results were worth it, and they just looked incredible. All right, at this point, let me stop the simulation. Let's go ahead and play this back. As you guys can see, the obstacle is working fantastic, and it just looks really good. And that's how you add an obstacle into your Flip Fluid simulation. Pretty simple stuff. Now, you're probably wondering, can you animate that obstacle? Of course you can. Let me show you. Go ahead to here. So I'm going to just go ahead and insert a keyframe. Insert, I'll do location and rotation. I'll jump to frame 15, go to my side view. I'll just rotate it like that. Insert location and rotation. As you can see, it moves like this. So let's go ahead and bake this and just see what happens. Now, there's a little bit of trickery involved in getting this to work sometimes, but let's just see what happens. As you guys can see, it looks like it's working. So the reason I was a little hesitant to even see if it would is because there's a few other tricks that I'll go over in a future tutorial on how to get that liquid inside of an object. That's a whole nother thing. Now I'll show you guys the basics of that right now, and then we can go over the actual full tutorial later. This looks great though. So let's go ahead and stop this and make sure everything was working properly. As we can see, the liquid flows, our object moves, and it's still interacting with our object as our obstacle is moving. So as you guys can see, this obstacle is clearly affecting the liquid simulation. It looks fantastic. Again, this is a really low resolution. I should probably go over a couple other quick settings before we do the other part of this tutorial. Let's go over viscosity and surface tension. So I've been messing with these two settings because I find that they heavily impact the actual simulation. So I'm going to scroll down here. Where is it? I believe it's Flip Fluid World. Yeah, okay. So guys, again, don't be alarmed. Find the Flip Fluid World dropdown. Once you have found that, you're going to see two options down here. Well, you're going to see world scaling, you're going to see gravity and force fields, viscosity, surface tension. So I don't really use this last option. I'm not really sure what it does. Viscosity and surface tension. Viscosity is basically the way, it's basically like honey. Like if you had a very high viscosity, it would act more like honey. It would kind of very smoothly fall down. It would kind of stick to itself more. That's viscosity. Surface tension is like how it sticks to walls. So if we made the surface tension really high, it would be more inclined to stick to a wall or be closer to a surface. So these two settings, enable them, mess around with them, and rebake your simulation and just see the difference. I'm not going to go into it right now because it takes literally hours of experimentation, but I just wanted to show you guys where those options were. There's just different settings and stuff in there that you can go over, rebake, test different options. That's how you get different types of like liquid effects, right? All right, so I went over viscosity and surface tension. Let's do, we can do a force field. Before we do a force field though, I want to show you guys, I'm going to add a cube to the scene, scale it down. I'm going to delete our obstacle for now. So I have our cube, right? I'm going to make it a flip fluid obstacle, right? Same as before. But there's this little button here that says inverse. I'm going to click on that. What do you guys think that does? That actually basically traps the liquid inside of this cube. So it makes the cube like a separate container. So let me just go ahead and make sure this is big enough. This looks good. I'm going to click on my domain and click on bake. And let's just see if this is working. Now, as you guys can see, we now have a container inside of our fluid simulation that is containing the fluid. So this is really, really important actually, because it's going to go into our next tutorial that we'll cover, which is how to like then take this cube and drop it on a surface. So this is like super important to know how to do. Also, if you guys ever wanted to like fill a logo with water, this is how you would do it. You would basically click on the inverse option and you would then fill your fluid into that. Let's see how this looks. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you go to rendered view, you're not really going to be able to see what's happening because this cube is sitting right here. So you're going to want to actually take that cube and hide it. Now, you'll also notice the hierarchy over here has completely changed. Flip Fluids kind of organizes everything for you. It can be a little annoying because you might want to organize your hierarchy in a way that makes sense to only you. But just keep in mind, it's going to be moving things into its own collection. If that's what you prefer, that's fantastic. If not, you might have to move some things around. But yeah, the add-on does do that. There's probably an option to turn that off. This looks cool. So as you guys can see, we're filling that up with liquid. Now, if you did want to show the cube, you can click on the cube and just do like a glass shader like this. And then I would actually scale it up a little bit too. Actually, what I would suggest on doing is duplicating it, getting rid of the obstacle feature on that, and then scaling it up. Because sometimes the walls are going to be just like at a lower resolution like this. The walls aren't going to be perfectly aligned. So you're going to want to compensate for that by scaling your cube up like that. And it does look pretty cool. You have this little fluid simulation inside of the cube. Now, we're not going to get too much into that. I went over pretty much everything you need to know besides force fields, so I'll go over force fields really quickly, and then after that, we'll kind of transition into the other more complicated tutorial. Again, flip fluids, don't be scared of it. It's really not too bad. You just have to learn it a little bit at a time, and you'll get more comfortable with it as we go. So go ahead and click on your domain, reset. I'm going to delete the cube here, and now I'm going to add in, I'll just add in a sphere. I'll put it like maybe up here somewhere. How about right there? And then I'm going to add a flip fluid force field to that. Now the strength is going to act in two ways. If it's a negative strength, it's going to pull the liquid in, right? Makes sense. And if it's a positive strength, it's going to push the liquid away. So for now, I'm going to keep it at a negative strength. And then I'm going to click on my domain, go back to my world settings, and I am going to turn off the gravity. So it's going to have, there's actually a button here for that, set to 0 gravity. I'm going to click on that. Everything's going to turn to 0. Now when we bake, we should have the liquid going towards that sphere. Let's just go ahead and see if this actually works. Now this is going to take some testing or not. Looks like it's working. So as you guys can see, the liquid is being like pushed in that general direction. Now, it's not going to hit the sphere because the sphere is not a collision object, but as you guys can see, it is indeed attracting the liquid. So this means our force field is working. And that's basically how you add a force field. Not too bad, right? Now, if you had the same force field on opposite sides, it would pull the liquid on both ends. Now, it's going to take a little longer to simulate when you have a force field like this because there's just a lot going on here. Let me stop this and let's play it back. Cool. So as you guys can see, the fluid begins to gather here, and it's going to kind of almost like a planet would kind of attract other planets. It's going to just kind of orbit around that force field. Now, again, if you guys wanted there to be an obstacle there, you could add a smaller sphere or a bigger sphere to act as an obstacle. I'm trying to show you guys what's possible here. It's really, really interesting what you can do with this add-on. But again, that's force fields. Just trying to go over this as quickly as possible so I can show you guys kind of the basics. I mean, with just this basic knowledge, you can do so much stuff. You know how to do obstacles. You know how to make the fluid appear in different manners as if it's being turned on by a faucet or as if it's being just dropped as a liquid. Now, again, let me just reset this. This does not have to be a sphere right here. If you wanted to, you could add Suzanne here, scale her down, and you could apply a flip fluid to her. And again, guys, if you go ahead and bake this, it's going to be the same deal. You're going to have Suzanne starting out as a liquid here. We have no gravity. I forgot I have to re-enable gravity here. Go ahead to your gravity, and for the Z, do -9.8. And then go ahead and bake this again, and Suzanne should fall. There we go. So again, guys, make sure you're messing around with those physics settings. Suzanne will fall, and she will disperse into a liquid. So just like that, you can liquefy basically any object. It's not too bad. Now, the add-on costs money, of course, but I will definitely vouch for it because I've been able to get incredible results with it. So yeah, I hope you guys have been enjoying this. I absolutely love flip fluids. I'm excited to just kind of hopefully get into some more tutorials in the future. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Again, there's no limits with this. You know the basics now. Like, I just showed you pretty much all of the basics. And now that you know the basics, there's really nothing stopping you from creating your own fluid simulation. And it looks really good. And this is low res. Go ahead and bump those resolutions up and let me know what those results look like. All right, guys, for now, I'm going to hop off of this tutorial and get ready for the next one, which is going to be dropping the box with liquid inside of it onto the, like a countertop or whatever, like just some kind of surface. So we'll hop into that next time. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys got some value out of this. Go download Flip Fluids, check it out. Go ahead and subscribe to me on YouTube if you guys enjoyed this video and you found it educational. Check me out on Instagram, TikTok, Gumroad, Patreon, Discord. All the links should be down in the description below. Everybody have a great day.